Bachelor party, truth or dare. Brandon Ellis's female classmate looked straight at me. I'm pregnant, it's Brandoness. The whole room burst into laughter. Only Brandon didn't laugh. After the party, he seemed somewhat melancholy. What Beth Reed said is true, don't overthink it, we're just pure brothers. I blacked out that night at the class reunion. She had a difficult upbringing and doesn't plan to get married in the future. She just wants to keep the child for company and will raise it herself. I nodded. But after all, I am the child's father, so I have to take responsibility. On weekdays, I'll stay at her place to help take care of things, Ellis, and come home on weekends. Let's cancel the wedding for now. After she gives birth, everything will go back to normal, and I'll make it up to you. I smiled. That's good. You've thought it through very thoroughly. He visibly relaxed, picked up his suitcase, and left without looking back, wiping the tears from the corners of my eyes. I also started packing my bags. The phone suddenly rang. The person on the other end was heavily drunk, their voice choked with tears. Tess, I fucking love you. Don't get married. Marry me. Okay. I paused for a moment. Okay. Without hesitation, I packed my bags in one go and gently placed the engagement ring on the dressing table. Looking at the joy-filled wedding decorations throughout the room, an indescribable bitterness churned in my heart. 3 years of secret admiration. 5 years of love, just 3 days away from walking into the wedding hall, only to be blindsided by his betrayal. Feeling tears about to spill again, I quickly shut my eyes. As I dragged my luggage toward the door, Brandon sent a message. I forgot to bring my towel. Can you bring it to me, Beth's place? You know where it is, right? I twitched the corner of my mouth. Of course I knew. Every month, their group of classmates would gather at Beth's place for dinner. Under the pretense of maintaining their friendship, I was fortunate enough to be taken there by him a few times. Each time, I saw a few men sprawled on the couch playing games and drinking, Beth wandering around them in a tank top and hot pants. I once got jealous and told Brandon not to go there anymore, but he just looked disdainful. I need my own social circle too. It's impossible to be tied together all the time just because we're dating. We have nothing in common. And it's so dull to face each other all day. Don't worry, Beth is just like a man in my eyes. Even if she stood naked in front of me, I wouldn't have any reaction. Looking back now, it was all just sweet talk to appease me. Seeing that I didn't reply, Brandon sent the address again. I clearly wanted to reply, not going, but somehow ended up typing received. Bitterness spread in my heart. But in the end, I still wanted to see it with my own eyes. He was pampered since childhood. Someone who couldn't even peel an egg. How could he take care of a pregnant woman? Beth in front of Beth's house. I clutched the bag containing the towel tightly. Beth quickly opened the door, wearing her usual tank top and hot pants, and with a bright smile, she pulled me inside. Before I could react, she had already taken the bag. Have a seat first. Brandon is showering. I'll hand him the towel. The sound of water from the bathroom abruptly stopped. Beth, grab the towel. Brandon's voice carried his familiar laziness. A few minutes later, Brandon walked out wrapped in a towel, shaking his wet hair while looking down, and called out with perfect naturalness, Beth, help me dry my hair. Beth stood on tiptoe and ruffled his hair, scoffing lightly. Brandon, who's taking care of whom here? Don't get it backwards, I'm the pregnant one. He clicked his tongue and made a move to grab her waist in retaliation when he suddenly noticed me sitting in the shadows. He casually handed the hairdryer toward me. Beth, no need to trouble yourself. I wouldn't want your clumsy hands damaging my hair. My wife is much better at taking care of me than you. Wife, to anyone looking, here, Beth seems more like his wife. I avoided him and stood up briskly. I don't have time. I'm leaving first. He grabbed my wrist, looking somewhat displeased. Do me a favor. Her, a favor. I laughed coldly. Brandon, she's carrying your child. You packed your bags and moved into her place, and now you remember to ask me for a favor. When the three of you were happily playing family, did you ever consider how I felt? Beth smiled as she pulled Brandon aside and winked at me. Tess, I really treat Brandon like a brother. That's just how I am. Always casual and straightforward. Don't take it to heart. He's just here to help with the baby. We're purely buddies. Nothing would happen even if we shared a bed. Our brotherly bond is solid. As she spoke, she suddenly hooked Brandon's pinky finger and gave it a playful shake. "Why don't you go back with Tess? I can manage alone. This little thing won't stump me. I don't care either way. When the baby's born, you can just be the father." As soon as the words left her mouth, she suddenly covered her mouth and retched. Brandon immediately rushed to fetch the trash can, patting her back with one hand while glaring at me. "Tess Gray, what exactly do you want? Didn't we agree on this at home?" My chest felt tight as I turned and headed for the door. Just as I reached the elevator, my wrist was suddenly grabbed with force. Brandon gripped my wrist tightly, his brows furrowed. "I've already explained. Beth is like a brother to me. She just wants to safely deliver this child. Think about it. If this were ancient times, I'd have to take full responsibility for Beth and marry her. You should be grateful that Beth doesn't even want to marry me. Even an illegitimate daughter of the Reed family has such integrity. As the eldest daughter of the Gray family and the future heir of Gray Corporation, is this all the magnanimity you have?" I looked up at him, my voice trembling uncontrollably. "Brandon, what era is this now? Are you still bringing up ancient times? What does this have to do with vision and magnanimity?" Tears welled up in my eyes as I gritted my teeth. "You're a top student in finance, a renowned investment consultant in the capital. I can't argue with you." After a pause, I lowered my head and sighed in defeat. "Let's break up." Tears fell onto the back of my hand, one after another. Brandon clearly froze, releasing his grip on me with some resignation. "Here's the deal. I'll spend every 3 days taking care of Ellis, and the remaining 4 days at home with Beth. That work for you?" As he spoke, his tone intensified. "Tess, this is my final compromise. Don't push your luck." I took a deep breath, suppressing the surging emotions, and said calmly, "No need for all this trouble. After we break up, you can spend every day with her. Just don't waste your time on me anymore." He stared at me intently, issuing a final warning. "Are you sure?" I turned my face away, refusing to look at him, and reached out to press the elevator button. He suddenly let out a cold laugh and shoved me hard. "Fine. Keep acting like this." I was caught off guard and pushed backward, my back slamming hard against the wall, the pain making me gasp for breath. Brandon cast a disdainful glance at me and turned to walk away. Beth stood at the door, deliberately raising her voice. "Brandon, can't you just speak nicely? Girls are cute when they're a bit fussy or petty. You should coax them, not yell. Get it, bro?" Brandon naturally slung his arm over her shoulder. "Let her be. She's thick-skinned. You know how it was. Those 3 years she chased me. No matter how cold or harsh I was, she wouldn't leave. She just loves the abuse." As he spoke, he pinched Beth's arm and curled his lips. "Women are such a hassle. Brothers are way easier to deal with." Beth immediately put on an exaggerated act, twisting her body and poking his chest muscles with her finger. "Ooh. You're so mean. I'm obviously a girl. How else could I be carrying a baby?" Brandon let out a "fut" and deliberately placed his hand on her chest. "This flat, and you call yourself a woman?" The two laughed and playfully wrestled before slamming the door shut with a bang. The world seemed to have been muted, leaving only the sound of my own rapid heartbeat, each thump like a heavy hammer striking my chest, sending waves of pain throughout my body. The elevator finally arrived, and I frantically pressed the close button. The doors slowly closed, but the elevator remained still, refusing to move. At that moment, Ellis's mother suddenly called. "Tess, I know all about Brandon and Beth. It's true that Brandon was wrong, and I've already scolded him harshly. Don't take it too much to heart. What couple doesn't have their ups and downs? Some things are better let go. As long as he still cares for you, life can go on. Beth has also said she won't come between you. Once the child is born, you won't have to worry about it. I, as the grandmother, will take care of it. Just pretend it never happened." I pursed my dry lips. "Auntie, let's just forget it." Seeing that I wouldn't listen to reason, her tone immediately changed. "Why are you so stubborn? Even though your education is lacking, just an undergraduate, far below our Brandon, you should at least understand basic decency. He made just one mistake and came clean with you about it. And you're ready to write him off completely. Aren't you exhausted being so stubborn about this?" My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles turned white. "Auntie, I'm not being stubborn. Since you've always looked down on my low education and my family's business background, thinking I barely qualify for your son. I'm stepping back now. Your son deserves better. Without waiting for her response, I hung up the phone directly. Ellis's family is filled with eminent figures in the education sector. At every family gathering, those elders would always feign concern and ask, "Tess, what's your educational background? Which university did you graduate from? What was your major?" After I mentioned the name of my school, they would exchange glances, shake their heads, and sigh. This school is likely to drag down the average education level of our Ellis family. They say a child's intelligence is mainly inherited from the mother. Our Ellis family's future, it's going to be tough, and Brandon would just sit there, a faint smile on his lips, never once speaking up for me. He also looks down on me. I remember when I first confessed my feelings to him. He looked at me with disdain. "Tess, my girlfriend needs to score at least 700 in the college entrance exam. Your score just barely passed the undergraduate threshold, didn't it?" Later, he reluctantly accepted me, probably only because I persistently pursued him for 3 whole years. In the elevator, I slid down the cold wall and sat on the floor, my breathing becoming increasingly rapid. I don't know how long it had been when the elevator finally started descending. The moment the door opened, a tall figure stood silhouetted against the light. I couldn't see his expression clearly, but I knew he must be frowning. Just like every time he saw me wronged, he raised his hand, gently wiping away my tear stains with his fingertips, then pulled me into his arms in one swift motion. "Tess, you're not allowed to end up like this again." The strong smell of alcohol hit me. Just how much had he drunk? This usually gentle and refined man had actually cursed on the phone earlier. I nudged him lightly, afraid the elevator doors would close, but he tightened his arms around me. "No cheating." "What? I've already discussed with both sets of parents. And we've started preparing for the wedding. 3 days from now is the most auspicious date this year, and I don't want to miss it." With that, he pulled me along without another word, his damp palm betraying his nervousness. Staring at his tense profile, I suddenly stopped in my tracks. "Dominic Harper, I want a traditional Chinese wedding." He froze mid-step, whirling around abruptly, the laughter in his eyes sparkling like stars being lit. "Okay." My thoughts couldn't help but drift back to the past. In high school, he was the school heartthrob, while I was the hopeless student he could never seem to teach. After entering university, we were separated by distance. Every Elish would take a 3-hour flight to visit me, tirelessly making the trip for 3 whole years. Until I started dating Brandon. When I dragged my suitcase back to the Gray family home, my mother hugged me with reddened eyes. "That scumbag isn't worth it." My father, with a dark expression, sent a voice message in the business group. "Anyone who seeks Brandon for investment advice again is going against me." Gray. After comforting my parents, I collapsed onto the bed, utterly exhausted. Opening my social feed, Beth just updated a 9-square grid post. 8 screenshots of gaming victories, with a selfie of her sitting on Brandon's lap flashing a peace sign right in the center. Caption: "When brothers unite, their strength breaks gold." I quietly hit the like button. A few minutes later, Brandon called. "Wanna play? Beth and I will carry you. Just follow us. Don't run around and mess up the tempo." To fit into his circle, I once humbly begged him to let me join their game. That one and only time, he cursed me out mercilessly, calling me a useless noob dragging them down, and told me to get lost. Today, heaven has bestowed its grace, but I no longer care for it. Just as I was about to hang up the phone, Beth's voice came through. "Brandon, I feel like throwing up again, and it's all your fault. That night, I just wanted to see if I had any feelings for men, but you took it seriously. My back hurts too. Come and massage it for me. Can you comfort your little girlfriend later? You decide what's more important, your bro or a woman." Brandon snapped at me. "Fine, don't talk then. Can't be bothered with you." The line went dead with a busy tone. My mind exploded in shock. This was no drunken accident. It had been premeditated all along. There were actually signs all along. Every time we went out, he'd complain it was boring, then turn around and Beth would stay up late gaming with him on voice chat. He always insisted on bringing Beth along on trips, claiming she livens up the atmosphere. His phone always had Beth's chat pinned at the top with a special notification sound, said it was gamer etiquette. There's always a Valentine's Day gift for Beth, with the reason being she's too pitiful being single, and whenever I question it, he inevitably flies into a rage. Are you possessed by jealousy? Maybe we should just break up, so I don't have to watch your reactions for everything I do. Don't think you can control me just because your dad has some dirty money. Brandon, don't need handouts from your grey family. Today I've wondered countless times. If I had firmly demanded that he keep his distance from Beth, would the outcome have been different? Yet in front of him, I've always been humble to the point of self-abasement, sensitive, suspicious, and foolish. These were the verdicts he passed on me. Every instance of my unease was defined by him as unreasonable tantrums. Even when my dad introduced clients to him, it was misinterpreted as an insult to his abilities. What more could I say? The next day was the school's centennial celebration. I never expected that the school would invite outstanding alumni from the neighboring school, Brandon and Beth, to attend as guests. After their speeches, the host joked with a smile, "You two look like such a perfect match. Could you be a couple?" Brandon didn't answer immediately, instead giving me a cold glance. I averted my gaze expressionlessly. Beth immediately placed her hand on Brandon's shoulder. "Do we look alike? Actually, we're sib." Before she could finish, Brandon suddenly wrapped his arm around her waist. "That's right, we already have a baby." The audience immediately erupted into cheers and applause. Whispers came from behind me. Ellis was the undisputed heartthrob of the university back in the day. Rumor has it some shameless hanger-on pestered him for 3 years, keeping him single, and somehow that hanger-on actually succeeded in the end. Just the other day, the alumni group chat was saying they were getting married. Glad to see that rumor debunked today. She showed up again today. If it weren't for her family's stinking money donated to the school, how would that airhead even qualify as an outstanding alumna? I clenched my fists and turned to face them directly. Had enough. Why not say it to my face? Their eyes darted nervously as they muttered, "We weren't naming names. You're the one choosing to take it personally." At this moment Beth and Brandon had already taken seats beside me. Beth pretended to console her, saying, "Tess, these two sisters didn't say it was you. You're being too sensitive." Brandon sneered, "You're crazy." With their backing, the two immediately gained confidence. Exactly, making a fuss over nothing. What a lunatic. Just then, the host on stage announced the start of the alumni sharing session and invited me to speak. I took a deep breath, suppressing my anger as I prepared to stand up. Just as I took a step forward, Beth suddenly stuck out her leg to trip me. Thud. I fell heavily to the ground. Excruciating pain surged through my entire body, especially in my knees, elbows, and jaw, as if I were being torn apart. My face burned with pain. When I reached up to touch it, my fingertips came away smeared with blood. The entire venue fell into complete silence in an instant. "Gray, are you this excited?" A mocking voice rang out from behind. What a grand bow for the school officials, amidst the waves of laughter. I was in too much pain to get up immediately. Brandon sat there stiffly, hissing in a low voice, "Get up now, you're making a fool of yourself." Beth pretended to reach out to help me. "Tess, stop acting up in this kind of situation. It's just a fall, and everyone's watching." The long-suppressed anger erupted instantly as I roughly pushed her hand away. "Stop pretending to be kind. Beth, why did you trip me on purpose?" She suddenly fell backward, heavily colliding with the chair behind her, clutching her stomach in pain and exclaiming, "Tess, I was kind enough to help you up, and not only did you refuse my kindness, but you also pushed me. What if the baby gets hurt? Women are such a hassle. If it weren't for Brandon's sake, I'd definitely pick a fight with you today." After saying this, he turned to Brandon. "Brandon, control your woman. A little drama is charming, but too much is harmful. I'm so sick of these women always fighting over men out of jealousy. Don't they have anything better to do?" I was so infuriated by her words that I laughed bitterly. Beth, just now I clearly saw her sticking out her leg to trip me, and that smug smirk on her lips didn't escape my notice either. And now she dares to play the victim. I couldn't take it anymore. Struggling to my feet, I raised my hand to slap her across the face. Brandon darted in front of her and immediately slapped me across the face. The force of the slap was so strong that my vision went black, and my ears rang with a buzzing noise. The venue erupted into chaos instantly. Brandon looked at the blood on his hand with disgust, wiping it off with a tissue, his eyes as cold as ice. "Tess, get the hell out of here." I stared at him blankly, my throat tight. "Brandon, can't you just once be on my side?" He froze for a moment, then grew even more furious. "I'll count to 3, if you don't leave now we're done for good. 3, 2. At that moment, I suddenly felt utterly drained, covering my burning cheek. I hurried out. Behind him, Brandon's tone suddenly softened. "Slow down, don't fall again." After ignoring Tess for a few days, Brandon figured she should have cooled off by now. Today was the end of Ellis. Originally the day they had set for their wedding, it was also the day he returned home. The wedding was cancelled, and he couldn't help but feel somewhat guilty. How about bringing back a small gift as a way to make it up to her? He efficiently packed his luggage, taking all the dirty clothes from the past few days back with him. Tess always hand-washed his shirts, ironing them meticulously, making them much softer than machine-washed ones. Thinking of Beth just tossing everything into the washing machine, he couldn't help but frown. "Prenatal checkup today. Coming with me." Beth suddenly pushed the door open. Brandon didn't even look up. "Another day. I have to go back today, bro." Beth hooked her arm around his neck. This heartless, again with the whole bro this and bro that. Brandon looked her up and down, her dark skin, loose tank top, and skinny legs beneath denim shorts. If not for the slight bulge of her belly, she could have passed for a tomboy. A sudden chill ran through him. How on earth had he gone through with it that night? He must have been truly drunk, and the room too dark. He suddenly missed Tess intensely, fair-skinned and beautiful, soft and sweet. The way she occasionally looked at him with reddened eyes made his heart melt and ache with longing. Such a girl would be irresistible to anyone, and he was no exception. He remembered Tess's 3 years of pursuing him. How many times had he wavered? Every time he scolded her with a cold face, trying to scare her away. She only became more determined. In the end, he had no choice but to accept her. So what if she was a bit slow, had a lower education, or tended to overthink things? After all, apart from Tess, he had never felt anything for anyone else. With that thought, he pushed Beth away and grabbed his suitcase to leave. Beth called out to him, "Brandon, are you still responsible? Just abandoning the child?" Brandon whirled around, his anger flaring up. "Didn't we agree Ellis would take me home? Did your prenatal checkup have to be scheduled for today?" He gave her a once-over and said with disgust, "Tess just quieted down, and now you're trying to imitate her. Save it. You're a man through and through. Don't make a fool of yourself like that ugly woman imitating a beauty. It makes me sick." Beth froze in place, her eyes gradually reddening. Brandon stormed out without looking back, slamming the door behind him. On the way, he deliberately picked Tess's favorite roses and bought a necklace. Imagining her secretly delighted little expression when she received the gift, he couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth. The moment the door opened, he felt as if struck by lightning. The room was still filled with celebratory decorations and streamers, but Tess's belongings were all gone. On the dressing table, the engagement ring lay alone. "Tess," he slammed his fist on the dresser, "what kind of game are you playing?" With trembling hands, he dialed the number, only to be answered by an unfamiliar male voice. "Who is this?" Brandon's voice was terrifyingly dark. "Put Tess on the phone." A light chuckle came from the other end of the line. "My wife is changing clothes. Anything you want to say to me?" "Wife?" Brandon laughed in extreme anger. Well, you're getting bolder. Actually finding a man to provoke him." He clenched his phone tightly, his voice icy. "Where are you?" The other party readily provided a hotel address. Brandon hung up the phone directly, his entire being filled with hostility. "Fine, Tess." This time she really crossed his bottom line. He was determined to teach her a lesson, making sure she'd never dare again. Dominic indeed followed my instructions, meticulously preparing a traditional Chinese wedding. The hall was adorned with red silk and swaying palace lanterns. I wore a traditional embroidered dress, while he was clad in a long robe with subtle patterns. All the guests were dressed in ancient attire, as if we had traveled through time, bow to each other as husband and wife, and now escort them to the bridal chamber. As the MC announced, Dominic swept me up into a bridal carry. Just as we were about to leave, Brandon in his suit stood abruptly in the center of the red carpet, his face ashen. Tess. Today was the day I promised to come home. I cancelled Beth's prenatal checkup, bought flowers and gifts, and this is how you treat me. He glared fiercely at Dominic's hand around my waist. I've already overlooked your antics these past few days and won't hold you accountable for bullying Beth. Come here now, and I can pretend nothing happened today. I lightly patted Dominic's shoulder, signaling him to keep walking. Brandon suddenly roared, "Tess, don't push it too far." Dominic gently set me down and leisurely adjusted his cuffs. The next second, he suddenly threw a punch. Bang! Brandon staggered backward, blood immediately gushing from his nose. He wiped the blood away and roared, trying to charge forward, but security guards who arrived just in time grabbed his arms. Brandon was pinned down by security, unable to move, and could only glare fiercely at Dominic. Got the guts to fight one-on-one. What kind of man hides behind helpers? Dominic sneered. I like it this way. Who cares what you think? He pointed at my face. This punch is for Tess. That fall your good buddy intentionally tripped her into. The injuries still haven't fully healed. I instinctively touched my cheek. Even thick foundation couldn't conceal the scar. Brandon followed my movement with his gaze, his face full of mockery. Tess, you've learned to tattle now, blaming Beth for your own fall. Are you a 3-year-old? Can't even take responsibility for something so small, even now? He still insists I'm lying. Looking at his scornful expression, I suddenly couldn't understand what I ever loved about him all these years. Those endless belittlements and denials nearly made me lose myself completely. Brandon, I don't want to bring up what happened that day anymore. Whether you believe me or not doesn't matter now, I said calmly. If I remember correctly, I've already broken up with you. I know you like Beth, she understands you. You share common interests and can have fun together. I've come to terms with all this. I choose to step aside and let you two be together. Congratulations in advance. You don't need to invite me to your wedding, and it's best if we never contact each other again. Brandon looked stunned for a moment before quickly adopting his usual lecturing tone. Tess, what nonsense are you spouting? Beth is my brother. I, Brandon, have only ever loved one person in my life, and that's you. Tess, even if you're slow, you should have been able to feel my love. What's gotten into you now? Only loved me. Yet all his favor was clearly given to Beth. I took a deep breath and fired back directly. Brothers, have you ever seen two men being so intimate that they share the same bed? As for your affection, sorry, I can't feel it, nor do I care for it anymore. Ellis's love, as a genius, is something a simpleton like me isn't worthy of. His eyes were evasive. Still making excuses. I'm a normal man. I get impulsive sometimes. It really was just that one time. I know you're upset. Can't I just cut things off with Beth after the baby is born? Suddenly, I found it laughable. To this day, he still doesn't understand that the moment he climbed into Beth's bed, we were completely over. Holding Dominic's hand and turning to leave, a panicked shout suddenly came from behind. Brandon cried out in alarm. Tess, are you serious? Dominic turned back with a disdainful look. Back in school, seeing you give my wife dirty looks every day, I've wanted to punch you for ages. Idiot, those 3 years my wife chased after you. You acted like some damn debt collector. Brandon suddenly widened his eyes. It's you, Brandon suddenly thought. Back when he had just started dating Tess, one early morning while reading at the sports field, someone suddenly threw a sack over his head and beat him up badly. The assailant kept cursing while hitting him. How dare you hold my wife's hand? I'll beat you to death. You pervert. He was left bruised and battered, but never figured out who did it. After all these years, the real culprit was right before my eyes. Let me go, he struggled frantically, desperate to rush forward for revenge. But the security guards held him tightly, leaving him utterly helpless. Watching helplessly as Tess was led away by this sworn enemy, Brandon felt rage burning in his chest. His breathing growing increasingly ragged, his eyes were bloodshot, his chest heaving violently, when suddenly everything went black before his eyes and he collapsed to the ground. Back in the backstage lounge, I stared straight at Dominic. Are you hiding something from me? The man who had just now berated Brandon so harshly was a far cry from the ever-gentle and refined school heartthrob I remembered. I almost thought I was hallucinating. Suddenly, I recalled the times he used to tutor me. No matter how many times I made mistakes, he would patiently explain over and over again, always wearing a reassuring smile on his face. Don't rush, take your time, until one day, I saw him taking deep breaths facing the wall, muttering to himself, "It's okay if my wife is a bit slow. As long as I teach her patiently, she'll definitely learn. If she still can't get it, it must be because I didn't teach well enough. It couldn't possibly be my wife's fault." At the time, I thought I must have misheard. Under my gaze, Dominic uncomfortably looked away. "You're like a startled rabbit, running off with red eyes at the slightest harshness. If I didn't act so refined, you'd have been scared off long ago." With that, his handsome face suddenly leaned in, wearing a pleading smile. "Honey, not mad anymore, right?" I couldn't help but burst out laughing, suddenly realizing this version of Dominic was actually more vivid and endearing than the flawless school heartthrob from before. In the hospital, Brandon opened his eyes to find 4 people gathered around his bedside: his parents, Beth, and Beth's father. Before he could fully regain consciousness, Ellis's mother anxiously spoke up. "Son, even if that heartless Tess got married in a flash, it's not worth fainting over. How is she even worthy of you? The top priority now is your marriage with Beth." Reed Dad came specifically today to discuss the wedding arrangements. Brandon was utterly confused and found it hard to accept. "Mom, Beth is a man. What kind of marriage are you talking about? This is ridiculous." "You bastard," Reed Dad roared. "My daughter is carrying your child, and you call her a man?" Ellis' mom awkwardly glanced at her husband. Ellis' dad cleared his throat. Brandon should indeed take responsibility for this matter. I think we should set the wedding for next month. And our Ellis family will cover all the expenses. Old Reed, what do you think?" Reed Dad hadn't yet answered when Brandon suddenly sat up from the hospital bed, looking urgently at Beth. "Bro, say something. Didn't we agree? You'd raise the child yourself after it's born and not interfere with my marriage to Tess." Beth lowered his head, his voice as faint as a mosquito's hum. I never said that. You forced me into it." Slap. Reed's father slapped Brandon hard across the face. "Calling my daughter bro, expecting her to raise the child alone. I don't understand your young people's ways, but our Reed family will never accept this." Ellis Yoon Lei, "I'm putting this on record today. If your Ellis family doesn't take responsibility, I'll make a scene at your workplace and see how the Ellis family gets utterly disgraced." After Reed's father slammed the door and left, the hospital room fell into dead silence. Ellis's parents, who had always doted on Brandon, exchanged glances but ultimately didn't dare to speak up, having been inexplicably slapped. Brandon was furious. "Beth, explain yourself clearly. When did I ever force you?" Beth pursed her lips, suddenly no longer wanting to pretend. "Brandon, let's stop being just brothers, okay? I've liked you for so many years but could only get close to you under the guise of brotherhood. Don't you have feelings for me too? Otherwise, how could we have had a child, now that Tess is married? Isn't it perfect for us to be together?" Brandon felt as if struck by lightning. Looking at this woman acting coyly before him, he recalled how they had been intimate, even doing that kind of thing. His stomach suddenly churned violently. At this moment, he finally realized with painful clarity that he had truly betrayed Tess. "Get out," he hissed through clenched teeth. Beth bit her lower lip unwillingly. "You were clearly happy when you were with me. You either looked down on or scolded Tess. Think carefully. Who is it you really love?" Brandon felt incredulous, looking at her as if she were a stranger, and said coldly, "I will never like men in this lifetime." Beth burst into tears. She had schemed with all her might, but forgot that Brandon could never cross the barrier of being brothers. Overwhelmed by shame and anger, she rushed out of the hospital room with a pale face. Brandon yanked the 4 needle from the back of his hand. He had to find Tess immediately. Gray's house. After saying goodbye to my parents, Dominic and I were about to set off for our honeymoon. As soon as we stepped outside, we saw Brandon standing in the rain beyond the gate. Just as we pushed open the gate, there stood Brandon in the pouring rain. He was drenched, his face frighteningly pale. his lips tinged with blue. As soon as we stepped out, he rushed forward, his voice hoarse and choked. "Tess, I'm sorry. I truly know I was wrong." Raindrops dripped from his hair, mingling with tears at the corners of his eyes. "I never expected Beth to be so scheming. She used our friendship to bind me. You warned me so many times, yet I never believed you. All this time, I misunderstood you." His eyes were red, but my heart remained unusually calm. He finally understood my pain and chose to stand by my side. "It's a pity it's too late." He trembled as he grabbed my hand. "I called you stupid, scolded you for being foolish, made you suffer all these years. I know it all. And I promise I'll change, but there's one thing I truly didn't lie to you about. In my heart, Beth is just a man. I've already refused to marry her. Forgive me. Come home with me." "Okay." I coldly withdrew my hand. Brandon looked at me with hurt in his eyes, still holding on to a last glimmer of hope. "Are you done?" I said calmly. "If you're done, then get out." He shuddered violently, clutching his chest as he took half a step back, tears welling up in his eyes. "Tess, can we really never go back?" Had I not personally experienced everything these past years, I might have been moved by his acting. I snapped impatiently. "I have nothing left to say to you. Stay in the rain if you want." Just as I looped my arm through Dominic's, a distraught shout came from behind. Brandon yelled desperately. "Tess!" He stood frozen in the rain, his face a mask of disbelief. When had the me who used to comply with his every whim become so indifferent? This stark contrast clearly devastated him. He suddenly rushed at me like a madman, trying to grab me. Dominic instantly shielded me behind him, his voice as cold as ice. "Brandon." Looking for another beating. Seeing this old rival, Brandon completely lost his temper and swung his fist, lunging at Dominic. Dominic delivered a side kick, sending him flying into a puddle, splashing muddy water all over him. "I've been practicing taekwondo for 3 years, mainly just to beat you up." As he spoke, Dominic rolled up his sleeves and stepped forward. I quickly grabbed Dominic and said, "Stop fighting. Getting your clothes wet will delay our flight." Turning to the security guard, I said, "Please escort him out." Before the security guards could act, Brandon staggered to his feet. He wandered into the night, utterly dejected, looking every bit like a drowned dog. Later, it was said that Reed's father stormed into the university where Ellis's father taught, causing a scene, and the Ellis family couldn't withstand the pressure. Brandon could no longer survive in their social circle and ultimately had to marry Beth. After marriage, Beth completely shed her bro disguise, but Brandon could never accept her psychologically, even when she wore floral dresses, grew out her hair, or even got plastic surgery to look like me. He only felt disgusted. An infection from cosmetic surgery caused her to miscarry. From then on, Brandon would feel physically nauseous whenever he got close to her. After enduring for several months, he resolutely filed for divorce. Beth used self-harm to threaten him, but he still walked away without looking back. Beth turned love into hatred. In the end, she pretended to agree to the divorce but stepped hard on the accelerator and crashed into him when they met. Brandon was left with disabled legs. Beth died on the spot. When I heard the news, I was chilled to the bone. Beth is so extreme that anyone involved with her would face a disaster. As for Brandon, he brought it entirely upon himself. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, so feel free to share your opinions, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. We'll see you in the next video.